Hello, folks, my friends, brothers and sisters, all of you out there trying to make a go of it now that things have changed so dramatically. But yeah, I'm sounding somber, hey? And here we are, episode 3 of my 2 Bits Worth TV, and I'm Gertjan Zwingler. And today I would like to discuss some more information about the law. As you recall, in episode 2, I talked about my handbook for the righteous and mentioned common law and admiralty law, but I didn't go into any details. And since some knowledge of the law is, I think, absolutely essential, because it will, by listening to what I have to say here, prepared a little so that I will kind of stay on track and not digress too much. This information that once you assimilate this, you'll come to realize that holy smokes, have we ever been screwed over? Yeah, for a long time. So let's begin with the idea of sovereignty. When you are born, when you come from your mom, you come into a world where there is a huge lie being perpetrated which immediately enslaves you. But you've got to realize that if you actually apply, and this is really important because, if you live in a Christian nation, a nation that professes essentially to be a Christian nation, and they're starting to disappear, but we are still essentially Christian nations here out in the West. And that's also really important that you realize that, because if you don't, then a lot of what I'm going to tell you kind of doesn't make sense and will not help you in the courts. Because you have to realize that religion and your particular religion is of extreme importance in court. So let's begin with the idea of sovereignty. So you are a sovereign being, which it's admitted in the New Testament. Say, look at Matthew 23, for example, where Jesus says, "Call no man master, not even the Messiah. And call no man father. You have but one Father, who is your Father in heaven." Yeah, and he also says in Matthew 23 about people calling themselves teachers and rabbis and so forth. He called them all hypocrites. Well, being called rabbis and teachers and priests and ministers and pastors, and it's all the same. All of you hypocrites out there professing to be supposed followers and teachers of the words of my older brother, Jesus of Nazareth, you guys haven't got a clue. Excuse me. Must have been a COVID. Went up my nose there for a minute. And then eventually I had to get rid of it. I didn't have my mask on. Oh my Lord Almighty! A COVID got out. Well, I have 2 cats here, and they're good at catching flies, so I'm sure, the COVID being such an amazing thing, it must be everywhere, according to the mainstream Jews. And yeah, like a fly, I'm sure that my cats will take care of it. So, sovereignty. You are a sovereign being. It's there in the Bible, so if you go into court, you swear on the Bible, say, well, here, look, I'm a sovereign. And being a sovereign, it's your choice whether you even go into the court. If somebody subpoenas you, if you're a king or a queen, some entity hands you a piece of paper that says, we want you to come and for most people, suffer in our playground here, mostly under the purvey of the Judaic entity, as you well know. You generally don't have a hope. If you go in there, you're not a Jew. In these playgrounds where Jews basically extort huge amounts of money out of unwitting goyim, out of the people that don't know any better, which is most of you. And that is a fact. And that's why I highly recommend that you purchase this handbook for the righteous. You can do that. You can email me, let me know you're interested to get this. Then you can go to Skrill. You can deposit $50 and you will receive a PDF version of this. Or if you want it in hard copy, I'll mail you a hard copy. But you're a sovereign being, so you don't have anyone over you but God. But anyway, what I want to kind of get at is to help you understand the difference between common law and commercial law, which is admiralty law. Every activity is essentially a commercial enterprise. Essentially, even your breathing will be taxed. So that's what we're going to cover. So let's begin with the idea of simplicity. Now, the problem is that human beings, for some strange reason, can't handle simplicity. You know, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have others do unto you, really, ultimately, that's the only law we need. It's very simple, but people just can't handle simplicity. So a very brilliant ruler named Hammurabi came up with a code of laws, 282 of them, and he had them inscribed on stele, I think basalt, very hard. So permanent record of the law, 282 prescriptions. And at the bottom of which Hammurabi wrote that he was trying to be a righteous king and to benefit his people and make it clear that this is the law and it's easily understood and overstood, and that he himself will also bow to those prescriptions, that in other words the king is not above the law. So from the admiralty law, the admiral, the captain of the ship, is the ultimate arbiter of everything that goes on, and right or wrong, you know, it's the captain in charge of the ship, and in international waters, you know, nasty things can be done to people and have been done to people. That's admiralty law, but under common law, things are very different. However, since the golden rule is not enough, what had to happen was the addition of 10 commandments. 10 prescriptions as opposed to 282 plus the golden rule, 10, 11. Very simple. Really simplified the law down, but unfortunately human beings can't handle simplicity. And so some centuries had to pass. Golden rule and 10 commandments, you know, did play a pretty good role towards civilizing the barbarians and, you know, generating essentially what we're striving to achieve, paradise here on earth. But of course we know all along we have this entity alongside us with their law, which is basically the Talmud. And in there, anyone who is not a member of their cult is an animal in human skin, and anything can be done to them. And so, you know, admiralty law essentially came out of that particular mindset, and has resulted in the absolute opposite of what's supposed to be here. But anyway, so we have the 10 commandments, and then again, people needed a bit more spelling out, if you will, you know, elaborate a little further. So, as you well know, in England, King John was made to sign a declaration, essentially a huge charter. They called it the Magna Charta, or the Magna Carta, is how you've also heard of it. And in there, all kinds of further prescriptions were developed, such as we have the absolute right to travel on a public road. We don't need a license to do that. And any agent of the crown acting as such has absolutely no right to infringe upon our conducting of commerce on a public road. And so you know, here there there's an awful lot of stopping of traffic on a public road and the extortion of money by the crown, which in the case of the Commonwealth, the British Empire, when the crown is referred to, as in courts in Canada, the crown, and above the judge hangs a portrait of the usurper, the apostate. No, yeah, well, is it the correct word? The apostate? Queen Elizabeth is a fraud, basically. Let's put it that. Okay, she was not legitimately crowned as a monarch of Great Britain. The stone of destiny, or the stone of scone, was missing under the coronation chair, and she swore on a Bible to uphold God's law. But she has done a whole lot of upholding of other laws, i.e., admiralty law. But again, it's part of this whole story. So we have the Ten, we have the Magna Carta. So then, in about the 15th century, a further set of acts were proclaimed, and again, this happened in Britain, okay, which is a place where essentially the common law, as it's spelled out, evolved, and law being, as you now have said, you are sovereigns. So the law is essentially a universal principle. It doesn't matter what land you live in. You're a sovereign being wherever it is that you are born and where you live. The imposition of jurisdiction is simply that. There is a power structure that imposes its jurisdiction and claims you as a vassal to be pillaged and plundered. Legal plunder, according to Bastiat, for example, that's what taxation is, legalized plunder. So we have the Habeas Corpus Acts that came out there, like I said, in the 15th century, that is, bring out the body. So for administrative reasons, no entity, government agent, whatever, could imprison someone without them having access to a representative, a lawyer, God forbid. Oxford Dictionary, by the way, speaking of lawyers, refers to them as shysters, or the word shyster is connected with the word lawyer. Yeah, in the Massachusetts colony, in their founding charter, they sought to keep lawyers out of the colony, and they referred to them as vermin, actually. But anyway, getting back to the Habeas Corpus Acts, is you can't be arbitrarily grabbed off the street, stuck in a cell, and then have no access to your family or somebody to talk to and plead your case. Because, even though you're a sovereign being, the situation is that these entities that are imposing their jurisdiction on you, they hold the keys to the cell, and they control thugs in uniforms with badges on their chest. People that have given up their conscience, they will do whatever they're ordered to do, regardless of the morality. And it's those order takers, those minions, that are also very much the enemy. So, yeah, and they have been for a long time. Okay, so we have the Habeas Corpus Act, and then people still needed a bit more spelling out, and that was done in the 17th century, around about 1660, 67-ish, kind of in that period. And that was the contracts and frauds legislations, and that determined what constitutes an actual contract between people. And a contract has to be between two living, breathing human beings, both of them signing a written document. And a contract is something in which both, or with which both parties benefit. If it's only a one-sided contract, it's not a legitimate contract according to the contracts and frauds legislation. Both parties have to benefit. Now you take a look at, for example, your contract with the IRS or with Canada Revenue Agency. It's not a contract. You were essentially coerced into signing there, but it's one-sided. The Canada Revenue Agency, which is owned by the Rothschilds, it's a private collection agency, just like the IRS in the United States. Those are private collection agencies that are extorting money under false pretenses. And since we are sovereign beings, and now that you know a little bit about the common law, I'll get into a bit more. Again, we have to stop complying and allowing these creatures to suck us dry. And now, under the COVID cost, people are literally being sucked dry, and there is an increasing amount of desperation happening out there. Now, a corporation is not, in law, in admiralty law, is considered a person. But it's this entity that has a board of directors, none of whom are held to account. It's the corporation that is whatever it is that, may have done something, and you try to sue to get back something that they may have stolen from you. Let's say the corporation called the Federal Reserve, or the Bank of Canada, or those collection agencies. What they have taken from you is, if you're my age, over the years that you've worked and made a wage, that the taxes were collected at source. Again, it's outright theft. That's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years, and all that money needs to be returned. I am seriously interested in pursuing that idea. We need to seek reparations, not just reparations for all the money that has been stolen from us, but for the suffering that has caused. And indeed, we need to sue all the public fool systems for wasting our time for 12 or more years, learning essentially nothing of value. Very few people learn anything about law. Latin isn't taught. You don't learn to read Greek. Like what kind of an education is that? Most people don't have a clue about logic. That's why the COVID cost has been bought into so easily. People haven't got any sense. There's no logic in any of it. None of it makes any sense if you think about it. And I went through that, I think, yesterday with the mask. Now, we are approaching the end of this amount of recording time. Like, I'm trying to figure that out, exactly how much recording time I have before the camera shuts itself off, and then I have to restart it. Yeah. So I'll just do this quickly, and we'll see where we end up. I was introduced to a retired Canada Revenue agent at a farmer's market some years ago. And I asked her directly, is it true that you people are taught to shut people down just before Christmas when it hurts the most? She admitted to it. I asked her, is it true that Canada Revenue Agency belongs to the Rothschilds? It's a private collection agency. She also admitted that, and she said, I don't care anymore, I'm retired now. So she didn't, and that was before a witness also. So I know this is fact, and I have also heard, not heard, but read that similar machinations are basically taught by IRS agents, and I'm thinking it's likely the case all over the planet. So, final note about contempt. If you go into court and you utilize the information that you can acquire from the Red Pill, a handbook for the righteous, or how to beat the unrighteous at their own game, if you're called in contempt, just simply look at the judge and say, is that criminal or civil contempt? Because there's only two things that occur in courts. It's either a criminal matter, which pertains to claims, or it is a civil matter, which pertains to contracts. And if the judge rules and says, well, it's a criminal contempt, then you think for a moment, and then you say to the judge, well, would that be somebody's laid a claim on me here? So then you look around in the court, turn around, look at the audience and say, is anybody here making a claim on me? Speak up now or forever hold your peace. You pause for a moment. Nobody says anything. Then you face the judge and say, is it you, judge, that's laying the claim? And well, of course, a judge can't lay claims from the bench because he has to be impartial. And so if that is the case now, that the judge is the source of the claim, well, he's in contempt of his own court. And the same goes for civil. If it's civil contempt, you just simply ask, well, who's got a contract with me here? Speak up or forever hold your peace. Nobody says anything. Again, is it you, judge, trying to contract with me? Again, that is a case where the judge is in contempt of his own court. Depending on the severity of the issue, the judge could even be disbarred for that sort of thing. So, it's tremendously powerful information, and all of that information and much, much more is available in that handbook. A handbook for the righteous, or how to beat the unrighteous at their own game. I'm Gert-Jan Zwigelaar. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope these words will help you out somehow or other, or at least give you some entertainment as you listen to me babbling through this information. Did you note I'm wearing my black lawyer gear for this presentation today? So I hope you guys are having an awesome. Yeah, there it happened. It ran out. Okay, well, I'm getting kind of a handle on it. Oh, darn, I forgot to turn my clock. I think it's around 15 minutes. So anyway, I was saying, please, guys, do not succumb to fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. The COVID cost will pass because more and more people are actually waking up to what's going on and who is behind this horror story. And so already I'm noticing that some of the so-called authorities are beginning to backtrack and to try and save face, but I don't think it's going to help. Eventually we're going to hang them all. So that's the way you need to start thinking. These people that have done this, they have done something so terrible that that's beyond murder. It is actually beyond treason, and they deserve rope therapy for what they have done. And for the people in the States, Antonio Fauci, Deborah Birx, the Clintons, meet the Clintons. My gosh, what a crime family that is. Crime and slime. They should all be hanged. They should be hanged on a big gallows in front of the White House. Maybe do 6 at a time. It'll take a few days, but we'll drain the swamp and we'll send a clear message, and then things can return back to not a new normal, back to normal. All right, okay, that's it then. All right, you guys, have a great day.